Hello everybody and welcome back to the sofa. This is my dog Roscoe, that's my sofa, and my name's Paul. Now today we're going to be talking about the Travis Scott situation, the music festival that he put on that he was a lead for, and the absolute tragedy that unfolded there. One thing that I'm interested in hearing from the Sofa Squad as we go through this is, do you think this was preventable? Do you think he should have stopped the show? Do you think he was completely aware of what was going on? The whole 9 yards. So just let me know down in the comment section. Now before we do dive into this, if you like movie reviews, if you want to see other stuff by me, consider checking out my other channel. It's all things horror movies basically, and I'm going to put a little thing up here. It's called A Slice, A Spice, and a Dice Movie Reviews. You can also check out other content by me like personal story times, cases that are a little bit too saucy for this channel, I guess you could say, Florida Man headlines, all that kind of stuff. Those are on channel memberships and Patreon if you are interested. Also, thank you to everybody who makes the Sofa Squad possible. Would not be here without you. Neither would Mr. Roscoe and all his little treats. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now let's get to dishing. So Travis Scott, he's an American rapper and record producer. Now Travis Scott is just like his stage name. Apparently, or allegedly I should say, it's taken after his favorite uncle, as well as like a nod to Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi, I hope I'm saying that right. I would imagine it's Cudi, not Cudi. But anyways, his real name is Jacques Webster. Now, as most of you know, if you click this video, recently he has been in the headlines, all over the headlines for what took place at his show. Now, this was in Texas, and this is like a 2-day music festival. This was on November 5th and 6th. It was called Astroworld Fest. Now, not only is Travis like one of the headliners, but he's also the organizer of the event. So this is like major for him. This is, I believe, the 3rd year it's been put on. And so there's that. Now, so many different stories are coming out. And one thing that has been really interesting to me watching this is watching it unfold in the media versus watching it having unfold on TikTok. It's a totally different story on TikTok, let's just say that. This is one thing, and this is not an ad for TikTok, but I mean, take it for what it is. This is one thing that I find interesting with TikTok, and one of the reasons why I just can't shake that app is because of situations like this, where you hear the media, oh, well, this is what happened, and this is really what was going on, but then you're seeing people at the event, live reporting, I guess you could say, reporting live from the event, and you're seeing something totally different. We're going to put a couple of those things up here during the video. We'll talk about them, but nonetheless, it's been very informative to me, and watching this to make me say, wait a minute, we're not getting the correct story from the media about this, in my opinion. Now, one thing I want to talk about real quick is one of the victims, and when I say the victims, this is a person who was lucky enough to survive the event, and she was describing in an interview that she did with Insider what took place. And when I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, this is giving me a panic attack like as I'm reading this. So I just want to read a quick blurb from this article. Now the whole article is down below. It's linked there if you want to read it. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting story and a very interesting perspective. Again, this was published on Insider and it was written by Ashley Coleman, November 13th, 2021. The victim's name we're talking about is Lyra, and this is what she says. I was like, I'm going to die because this man is not stopping the concert. Knowing the song would trigger jumping and moshing in the crowd, she resigned herself to being crushed to death. She lost sight of the lasers, strobe lights, and pyrotechnics that made up Scott's performance as other people fell on top of her. Quotes, there was no light left of the concert at all, she says. It was complete darkness. I was holding another person's hand, and I was just accepting that I was going to die, and then she passed out. Okay, so now as we get into, we're going to discuss like, the fire department's logbook about what went on, that kind of thing. And then hearing that, I'm like, oh my god, that is so horrifying. So I've been to many different concerts in my lifetime. I'm going to age myself here, but like I've been to like the original Lollapaloozas. So looking at the pictures of this event, to me, and if you were there, let me know differently or whatever, but it looks like it was, when I say general admission, there's like no assigned seating in the different sections you were sitting in. So it looked almost like you either had some kind of VIP section where you're really close to the stage and then another section behind that. And so that's what it looks like. But again, they could have had seats that were removed once I saw this, whatever. Let me know again if you were there, if you have more tea on exactly how that was done. that being said, when we get into some of the details as to how it looks like this happened, this is where I'm like, I hope they change this with some concerts. Like when I say general admission, I'm talking about you pay a certain price to get into an area. Okay, the Lollapaloozas that I went to back in the day, they were at like an amphitheater, and so there's a covered part. It was all outside, right? But there was a covered section that were going to be, I mean, yeah, you could get prime front row seats, but even if you were in the very back, you still had good seats, you know what I'm saying? And then the rest was like a field, basically. It was a smaller event for the venue, but again, it was the first Lollapaloozas. But nonetheless, I'm thinking, okay, imagine something that was this massive with someone as famous as he was, and everybody wanting to be in the front row, okay? And it's just a recipe for disaster. So that being said, let's talk about some of Travis's behavior that took place, because one thing, and this is what I want your opinions on too, one thing that I'm seeing with this is he has exhibited behavior like this before, and what I consider egging the audience on. So once the tickets for this year's festival were sold out, he did an Instagram post that he was putting a plan together to get some more of the wild ones into the event, even if he's got to sneak them in, were his words. Now, at a 2017 concert in New York City, video showed Scott egging on a fan to jump from a second floor balcony into the mosh pit. Also, at a 2015 performance at the Lollapalooza Festival in Chicago, he encouraged fans to vault over security barricades. Now, he was also arrested years later after encouraging crowds to bypass security and rush the stage at a concert in Arkansas. Now, in that instance, several people were injured, and he would end up pleading out to some charges in that. Now, again, these are just a few little examples of what took place. Here's my thing with this behavior, and we'll get to the other part in a minute, but just these specific. Okay, if you're a performer, I get you're wanting to hype the crowd up, you're wanting to do all that, but encouraging the crowd to like break down barricades, jump fences, do this kind of stuff, have somebody jump from the down into the mosh pit. I mean, why? Now, one thing I'm also hearing is that people are saying his events are all about like chaos and this energy level. Trust me, I've been to many a rock concert. I get it. Okay, I get there's that level of like the mosh pit and that energy, and people can get hurt. I just have a problem when a performer is actively encouraging people to do things that could hurt themselves and others. I think it's incredibly irresponsible to encourage your fans to like breach security and rush into an event. I just do, for this very reason we saw it play out. Now, what I want to do is go through a timeline of the fire department logs. This paints a grim picture. And y'all, the investigation of this is going to take a long time, because they're going to have to unpeel layers to this onion here to get to the center of it, of who knew what, who didn't stop what, so on and so forth. Shortly after the 9 a.m. start of the November 5th festival, spectators had already breached the main gate. There were 8 more breaches throughout the day. Like several thousand concert goers were not scanned when they came into the interview by 5 p.m. Now, already at 5 p.m., the police department had reported dangerous crowd conditions. 8 minutes before the headliner, Travis Scott, but 8 minutes before he took the stage at 9 p.m., there had been like over 250 people already treated, according to these logs. Various types of treatment. Now, by 9:18, there was a crush injury reported. Now, actually written in the logs, less than a half hour even into the performance, the log states this is when it all got real. I mean, this is bad, y'all, okay? Now, by 9:33, police had reported multiple people trampled, people passed out the front stage, and then minutes later, a police operator reported 5 911 calls about people who were unconscious in the audience. Now, at 9:52, a level 1 MCI mass casualty incident was reported in the logs. Then from 10 p.m. to like a little bit after 11:30, 17 people have been transported to hospitals. Like 6 of those people were in cardiac arrest. Now, another thing that I saw lots of on TikTok and various news stations were some of the rescuers, and they were just like, look, there weren't enough people there to help. And there was actually other people who were in the audience, like say nurses, people like that, who were reporting, yeah, I went up and just started helping people. I mean, there was not enough people. And the vibe that I was getting from this whole situation was, if you fell down, okay, you were done for. Like, you were going to get trampled, you were going to get sucked into this, the crowd on the ground, you weren't going to be able to get back up. People were begging and crying to be helped in this. I mean, it is really hard to watch some of these. you know, I was just like, oh my God. I'm claustrophobic, but not super claustrophobic. But what I saw, I was like, oh no. Oh no. This is, I don't even care if I was like a teenager going to this or a young person again. It was not a good situation. Now, what's made things worse, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where I was like, yeah, we're hearing this, but it looks a little bit different than what we are seeing on, you know, TikTok and places like that. So, first of all, it was alleged that he didn't find out till the next morning that, you know, this took place at his concert. And his lawyers were like, look, he didn't know what was going on. He couldn't know what was going on. But the thing is, it does look like he knew what was going on. There were several different instances. I'm going to be putting some little clips up here, number one, of, you know, video that people took or whatever. But also, I mean, there was just documented evidence of him kind of stopping the show, pausing at times to check on certain people. So like 24 minutes into the performance, it does show like there was a live stream or whatever, and it does look like he is talking to somebody who was working in the pit to check on somebody who was in distress. So there was that attempt. But at the same time he was doing these attempts, he's also egging the audience on. And like just a few minutes after that, he told the audience, he's like, I want to see some ragers, and getting everybody going. And then an ambulance was coming into the crowd, and he acknowledged the ambulance. He's like, hey, what's that? You know, what's going on? Well, just a little bit later, he's telling people, put up your middle fingers if you're doing okay. Then he starts encouraging like the mosh pit activity. And here's the eerie thing, right before the police would say this is a mass casualty event is when he was just like, look, let's get this mosh pit going. Let's get that going. Now, circle back to the Lyra's statement that she made to Insider when she was just like, I'm on the ground, I'm passing out, and oh my God, he knows what this is going to do to the audience, and he's egging them on even further, like, I'm going to die. Okay, so we're going to talk about my feelings on all that in a minute. Now, also on TikToks, I saw crowds of people all in unison saying, stop the show, begging them to stop the show. One girl had actually gotten up to some kind of a production person or a cameraman. It was saying, there's like a dead person over here. We need help. So again, I know I keep saying I'll talk about it in a second, but I just want to go off of my rant. We're going to save it for the end though, okay? Now, one thing that was very big to me, and again, I'm going to put these videos up here, is when he was on a riser and there was somebody literally being helped right near him. And he actually pointed this out like on one of them, but you also can't tell me where I'm like, I mean, come on, you're right there, you're looking at this dude, and people that were there were alleging that he was seeing this kind of weird, like, yes, this guy's being like carried off. There's all these events going on in this rather short set that he did of people being injured and hurt and carried off. Now, y'all can only imagine the lawsuits that are going on right now. At the time of this recording, there was, okay, so around 9 people have lost their lives, 100 plus lawsuits, 300 plus other victims, some of them as young as like 9, 10 years old. I mean, it's bad, okay? Now, Travis has, you know, reached out obviously via, you know, his people, his lawyers, to try and establish contact with family members in the most appropriate way possible, I think they was said. Also kind of leaving that space of they probably don't want to talk to him, and also he is in major CYA zone right now. Yo, the amount, if this doesn't end his career, and I mean, honestly, I personally think he can possibly put him in jail. I mean, come on. I mean, this is probably going to bankrupt him or somebody. At least it should. Now again, so let's get into a little bit of my rant. So here's the thing. So all these different people are coming out saying, oh, he couldn't stop the show. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. You know, you're not able to do this. One officer was quoted saying, you can't just stop a show of 50,000 people. You know, people could riot, people could do this. And I mean, I'm sure there's some truth to that, right? When we start looking back at his historic nature of doing this kind of stuff at shows and whatnot, egging people on. Again, I get you're a performer, you want the hype. I understand that. But having things where you've already gotten in trouble for causing people to get hurt and whatnot, and then you're seeing ambulances, you're seeing people passed out, all this stuff, and then all these kind of tone deaf people surrounding you are coming out saying, oh, he wouldn't have known that, oh, he wouldn't have been able to stop the show. The worst being, most recently he got some kind of new spokesperson. It was the former mayor of Baltimore, and she's coming out saying that even the idea that he would know what's going on there is ludicrous, and that he is not basically allowed to start the show. There's only like 2 people that can stop the show. Here's my thing, and since other concerts going on, you're seeing numerous artists stopping the show to be like, is so-and-so okay? Is so-and-so okay? So there's that. Here's my thing. If you are the artist and you have the microphone and you're the reason why everybody is there, and you say, I'm stopping what's going on, I'm sorry, but the show's going to stop, okay? Point blank, period. It's going to stop. I personally think it comes down to contracts, to money, to egos, to just completely being oblivious to other people. I have no doubt that when you're on a stage, it's very difficult to hear and see what's going on. Trust me. I also have no doubt that people pass out, things happen. I grew up when Michael Jackson was like, the most famous person on the planet. Any concert, they were just pulling people out of the concerts, passing out. So I'm sure to some level, it is normal for an artist to see, people passed out, that kind of thing going on. Okay, I get it. If an ambulance is pulling into the audience, I'm just like, seriously? There just comes a level of personal responsibility. And then to me also, I'm just like, I'm sorry, whether it's curiousness or just wanting to make sure everyone was okay, I wouldn't be able to keep going. I would have to be like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? I don't care if I can hear it in my mic or anything, but all that chaos surrounding the show, I would have to be like, is everybody okay out there? Now, another huge thing that is coming out, and a lot of people are divided on this, I'm curious what y'all think. Again, this is going to be down in the description. This is his former manager. His former manager came out on TikTok and spilled, I'm talking piping hot tea.
Travis Scott is the worst person I worked with in my entire career in music.
His name is Shane Morris. He's a 34-year-old who describes himself on TikTok as a machine learning engineer, dad, husband, and cornbread eater from the state of Texas. So he used to, be working with Travis Scott, his manager, whatever, helped to get his career going. And he says that Travis Scott is the worst person he has ever worked for or with in the music industry. Now, he would describe a scenario of basically like where he went into some kind of seizure in a basement and Travis left him for dead. And apparently the story surfaced a few years ago or several years ago. He kind of went viral for it. It went away and now he's come back with it. So there's one camp that's saying this guy is just looking for clout. He's just looking for fame. Here's his chance to do it again type thing. But then, again, I don't have any connection with any of these people, obviously, so listening to it, I'm like, again, it's all alleged or whatever, but it seems kind of on brand for the behavior that we're seeing of somebody who's just so full of themselves that they might enjoy seeing people get hurt over their excitement for them. But again, that's just my opinion. Now, another thing that he did say is he was like, you know what, and this guy's real big into the former manager's name. He's really big into like data and engineering and IT and all that kind of stuff. So he was basically like, look, I was helping to fudge Travis's numbers to make him look more popular to help get his music career going. So there's that, and I'm sure Travis ain't the only one who's done that. So, but it also is just very interesting. So again, I just come back to, my personal opinions. I've pretty much already said them. I do think he should have stopped the concert. I do think he needs to be held responsible. I think it is an absolute horror show that 9 people so far, it could be more at this point. Again, I'm recording this several days before you're watching this. All these victims, that is absurd. I hope this event can do something to pass some kind of, law, something to help prevent this from happening, but to also hold artists accountable. And what I mean by that is, look, if things are going down or whatever, even if it's to the level of, look, don't encourage people to hurt themselves. You know what I'm saying? Don't get somebody to jump off a balcony. Don't tell people to come break through the gate. That's absolutely ludicrous. And also be better prepared for these type of events. Have the amount of security. Now, allegedly security was even beefed up way more than it has been. And way more beefed up, but even with that, it wasn't enough. It also seems like, again, they just weren't prepared for this. And more and more stories that come out and hearing how it was handled is just absolutely ridiculous that this even happened in the first place and that it was handled the way that it was. Anyways, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I want to hear from y'all, Sofa Squad. What do you think about this? Have you been following it? Let me know what your opinions are down in the comment section. I appreciate you watching, and until the next time we gather around that old sofa, I'll see you then.